All right, so today's Deadrop discussion of the day, we are going to talk about actually Call of Duty's DMZ and the lessons that Deadrop can learn from Call of Duty's DMZ mode. What I'm going to focus on for this video is actually mistakes, things that I think Midnight Society and Deadrop should avoid doing that the DMZ does, whether they're purposeful gameplay design decisions or things that I think are just actual mistakes. We're doing a series like this. We've done a video about what game I think Deadrop should try to emulate in the sound aspect. I did, that's up here with Hunt Showdown, spoilers. And then I've compared it to Marauders, things that they should and shouldn't take from Marauders. And then even a 2D extraction shooter like Hell is Others, which is a very interesting and unique game and just launched on the Epic Games Store, by the way. So these are the mistakes that I think Midnight Society should avoid when we're talking about DMZ. So right now, Call of Duty's DMZ, by a lot of measures, is going to be, it's one of the biggest extraction shooters on the market by default, technically, right? So it's part of Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. Part of the Warzone 2 package, technically, it's free to play. It uses the same map as Warzone, Al Mazrah, and it's obviously got the Call of Duty gunplay. It's not its own game per se. It's a mode within Modern Warfare 2, aka Warzone 2. And Deadrop is not going to do that. Deadrop is a straight up extraction shooter. Doesn't have other modes, at least that we know of. So yeah, there's that, and that presents actually some interesting potential balance problems that I think Infinity Ward and Raven and all the teams working on Call of Duty will actually have to toy with, because it's always hard for games like Destiny to balance their PvE versus their PvP. And in Call of Duty, you've got the standalone multiplayer, you've got Warzone, and you've got DMZ. Three different experiences that they have to try to balance around and make fair, even though they're different experiences. Luckily, Deadrop will not have to deal with that. I'll show you some DMZ gameplay right now, by the way, in case you've been living under a rock and you're unfamiliar with what DMZ is. You have to drop into Al Mazrah with either by yourself or with a squad, go in and loot up, complete missions, and exfil. Okay, so the first mistake that I think Midnight Society should avoid emulating Deadrop in, and actually you're seeing a bit on screen, it's the vehicles. We know that Deadrop has car integration of some kind. There's a garage, and I've got a whole video on the Midnight Mayor YouTube channel about what I think they could do with our cars other than just have them in the garage and let us customize them. I think you could do some cool stuff like scenes, like they do in Warzone, actually, with your squad, pulling up to the refiner state in your customized vehicle or whatever. I think that'd be cool. Or leaving in your customized vehicle. Nothing gameplay, just have your specialized vehicle there present, kind of giving you a cool vibe. That I'm cool with. What I'm not cool with, I don't actually want gameplay within the refiner state with vehicles. And that doesn't just mean player controlled. What I'm talking about too, especially, and Battlefield 2042 Hard Zone made this mistake, NPC controlled vehicles. I do not like this. I think it changes the entire flow of the game. And when I'm in, I know PvE is part of extraction shooters, or a lot of them at least, and it will be in Deadrop. It's a PvE game, but I don't want enemies driving around in armored cars. Helicopters flying over gives a cool feeling. I don't want NPCs flying around in helicopters, shooting at me. I've yet to see it really done right in a PvPvE scenario, I guess. In Battlefield 2042, at least at launch, those armored cars and stuff were insanely overpowered. They basically broke the game. And I don't think Midnight Society should even mess with it. I do think there could be some cool gameplay, like I said in my car video, where you're escaping and it's no longer PvPvE. You're driving out of the refiner state, so to speak, or away from, and you're kind of just like cruising along or running. If this part's only PvE and you have NPCs chasing you or something like that, that I'm fine with, but I think they got to be really careful with this. I don't think there should be, within the normal gameplay of Deadrop. I don't want to see vehicles. I don't want to see NPC controlled vehicles, especially. I don't like it. I think it's, for me, it detracts from the experience. The gunplay, the boots on the ground aspects, all that stuff. So that's my first mistake I think that Midnight Society should avoid when it comes to Deadrop and mistakes that DMZ and Call of Duty make, in my opinion. And the second one is somewhat related to that. It's the scale. So the Proving Grounds that we have now has very interesting scale, very interesting verticality. That's a huge element of Deadrop, of course. And the Proving Grounds feels pretty large to me, right? It feels like a really good size. Right now, it holds 18 players. We don't know how many it will hold eventually. I've heard anywhere upward to 60 players to 150 players, but nothing is confirmed. But something I want to be sure of, DMZ, when I have played it, feels very empty. It feels like a open world RPG, almost. It doesn't feel like an intense PvP or even PvE experience. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have its moments, it doesn't have its purpose. But to me, it feels way too big. The Al Mazrah map is too big for an experience with only, what, 60 players I think DMZ has. And I want them to be very careful. You can have larger maps, and I think we are going to get, you know, multiple maps and sectors, almost like Marauders. Marauders is a game that I think the maps feel good. They're big enough to get yourself kind of lost, and if that makes sense, but they're small enough to navigate through, and small enough to contain all of the players, and you can actually have, you know, three-way fights in a moment's notice. They're not common, but it can happen, especially when you're talking PvE fights. You know, you're fighting NPCs, you're fighting other teams. I think they have to be really careful not to every game these days wants to be huge. You know, no matter what genre you're in. These giant open world games that last for, you know, 500 hours and blah 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 blah. That's, to me, that's not it. I'd rather have a smaller, tighter experience. And I think the size of the Proving Grounds is great, especially because there is verticality to it. And that will make the game very unique. I don't think we need these massive maps by any means. And albeit Al Mazrah is a Battle Royale map that holds 150 players. Even if Deadrop plans to get into those higher player counts, which I think it will be higher than 18, we will have maps with more than 18 players on it, probably. I'm speculating, but I could definitely see that. I just don't want these massive maps where you can drop into the DMZ 3-4 times in Call of Duty, and you might never see other players. That's not the experience that I want. They're kind of going to walk an interesting line between Battle Royale and PvE extraction shooter, and that's what I want it to feel like. And I feel like the size of the Proving Grounds is actually perfect for that. And I feel that DMZ's current size in Al Mazrah is actually too big. And I think it takes away from the gameplay experience, in my opinion. If you feel differently, if you'd rather see massive maps like this, let me know. And then the third thing, I've talked about this quite extensively in multiple games and my hopes for Deadrop. I don't think that Call of Duty's DMZ really has a purpose. There's no real end game. There's nothing you're working towards. It feels kind of, I hate to say it, but pointless. If you enjoy the day-to-day gameplay of it and the experience, then obviously that's all you need. You need a game to be fun and give you satisfaction, and that's it. But, you know, in the Division Dark Zone, for example, that's a mode where your squad is, or your squad, you're trying to get in and get loot that stays with your character. It's a permanent upgrade. So it feels like there's high stakes. Or you know, Hunt Showdown has permadeath. That definitely is a whole other aspect. And I'm not saying that Deadrop should replicate permadeath necessarily, but there's an element of tension and high risk, high reward. DMZ, the loot that you're getting, that you're trying to extract with, or the missions you're trying to complete, they don't feel important, and there's no overarching story being told by DMZ, so it's not like you're unlocking a new element of story or narrative if you can complete this mission and then extract or something like that. it just feels kind of, it's not bad by any means, but it just feels kind of tacked on. There's no real end game to it. There's no progression. You're not making a character stronger, and obviously because it's Call of Duty, they didn't go that direction. And I think they easily could have. I think they could have given you a character. There's no reason that says your DMZ character is a separate character that you have paths of progression on, whether it be perks, permanent perks that you can unlock to make your character stronger just in the DMZ mode and only in the DMZ mode. But that's not what it is. There's no permanent loot upgrades or anything like that. And I think Deadrop needs to do something different. Again, I've said I think they could do seasonal storylines very easily. I would love that. Something akin to at the highest level, a Destiny seasonal storyline. I think that's one of the best narrative seasonal storylines of any game that I've seen. Or they could do something again like the Division does, where your variant or your character can actually earn some permanent upgrades or loot or whatever, other than just basic experience for your account, which is what DMZ offers. You can complete some daily missions to level up your battle pass, and you can level up your character account, and if you enjoy it, that's great. That's all you need again. But there's not much else other than that. So in conclusion, these are the things that I think, these are the mistakes that Midnight Society and Deadrop need to avoid making that Call of Duty's DMZ makes. NPC-controlled vehicles are a balanced nightmare, and I think they should be avoided at all costs. B, the scale is too large. You don't do a whole lot of fighting against other players, and I think that's a problem. I'd rather have a smaller, tighter experience where you're pretty much guaranteed to actually have to fight against other players, and you can also kind of frag out in those games, almost like in a battle royale, and that feels great. Third, no actual end game, progression, or narrative. If you enjoy DMZ, it's fine. You can play it and have fun, but you're not earning any permanent loot or permanent upgrades or progressing through a seasonal storyline. And I think the Deadrop and Midnight Society can do things different. So, with no further ado, if you've been watching this on stream, thanks for listening. If you are listening to this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this channel and come find me on Twitch. Like the video. Let me know what you want to see Deadrop do differently than Call of Duty's DMZ in the comments. This is your #1 channel for Deadrop coverage, Midnight Society coverage. So make sure you're part of the Mayorverse, guys. Midnight Mayor is all part of that. So we'll see you in the next video, and now I'm gonna play some Apex Legends on stream.